Hey, friends, welcome back to the Call to Lead podcast. I am seriously so excited for this week's episode because you're going to be meeting my girl, Marenda Benson, who is an amazing rock star leader on my team, who is just like, when I look at her numbers, she's an outlier. I'll just say that in terms of especially what she's able to cultivate in building up leaders on her team. And if you've been following my podcast for a minute, you know that some of the last few months have been a little bit interesting. But yet, Miranda just consistently amazes and inspires me with the way that she runs her business. And so, being able to have her on the podcast to share her story, her experience, and her tips and tricks that I know anybody that's listening can absolutely implement in their business, even in the midst of maybe a tough season in business, it's going to be so amazing. So, I'm so excited to have Miranda on the podcast. Miranda, thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and to share.
Well, girl, I love your story. And I know that people listening, some people might be familiar and they're like, "Yes, finally, like when she's we get to hear her story." But for those people who, haven't seen you, because that's a beautiful aspect is while you are active on social media and you do have a presence, it's not like it's this huge presence. You're not an online influencer, things like that. So for people who maybe aren't familiar with you, give us the backstory of like where you're from, just your family, all the things.
Right. So again, I am Marenda. I am a wife to my college sweetheart. I'm a mama to three littles. They are all 5 and under. And when I had my youngest, they were actually all 3.5 and under. So I'm kind of like in the trenches of motherhood. I actually live in Georgia, just like Heather. I live above Atlanta though, and I am from South Georgia, a small town down there. And I'm actually here right now visiting family for the week. The family is a huge deal to me. Basically, almost all of my family still lives in that area and nobody moves away. So everybody is stuck around, and I'm the one that left and got away for a little bit. So, but I love that is a huge thing for me is I'm a very big relationship person growing up with family all around and a lot of family, grandparents both nearby, cousins, doing a lot with them. I think that just cultivated something in me early on about how important relationships are and loving those people that you have in your life.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know you know this, and I say this a lot on the podcast, but obviously, relationships and connections is the foundation for this business. So I feel like when you put that first, it's no wonder that you've been able to have the success that you have had here in business. And so I love that you kind of led with that. But what's interesting is I know that, just from being your like Saint great great grandma and kind of watching the story of how you decided to join with the company that we're both with, Seint. I know that you were approached for kind of a while about diving into this business model, and you were working, kind of on the back end of like the social media management, right? Like with kind of in that zone. So what was your life like when you first started kind of hearing about this? Like what were your original thoughts, maybe hesitations? And then, coupled with that, like what made you finally decide like, okay, I think I can do this and dive in, as a business?
So much. So one big thing is I was probably approached. Well, I joined 3.5 years ago, but even before that, I was probably approached 2 years before that, just very like indirectly sharing about the opportunity. And at that time, I didn't understand the value in it. I was a speech therapist and loved what I did. I love my job. Loved, I love that part of the same relationship of being that kind of gap between my kids and their parents and helping them learn how to communicate together and that piece. And it was not at a time where I felt like I needed something else in my life. Like I didn't feel like I needed this opportunity, to be honest. And so fast forward a few years and I had, two kids, 2 and under. I was not working full time as a speech therapist. I was working some still there, kind of like PRN, and also helping out kind of with some social media stuff that was really cool and fun. And I will say, I tell people, I'm like, I've had several dream jobs. Like speech therapy was my dream job, doing what I did and like helping these babies and these children learn how to communicate whatever way they needed to was a dream job for me. Working with a friend in social media, like that was such a cool dream job. And like each one of them has prepared me for where I'm at now. And so I learned so many things that help me um, as a mentor and leader within Saint in both of those, but then also in the aspect of being able to share effectively and make the most use of my time. I learned. And so honestly, when I started seeing Saint about probably 4 years ago now and watched girls do it, I just watched. And, like Heather, you said, several people mentioned it to me even at that point, and it was kind of like I saw it and I started seeing the value, not in just only the product they were sharing, but in the opportunity. I knew I was also fading out of the job I was doing as far as the social media aspect of it. Things were changing with that job and that position. And I had 2 kids, 2 and under. It did not make sense for me to go back to work full time as a speech therapist, childcare for 2 kids, working in the school system or in private practice. And it just didn't make sense. And I honestly refused to believe, I'm stubborn at times, that I could not be a very present mama and also make a financial impact within my family. Like, I just knew there was a way I could do it both, and I wanted to, and I was going to figure out how to make it happen. And so I started watching these girls more and more, and I was very intrigued by the makeup because I knew some of them and I knew they were not makeup gurus, and I was not either. I'm like, if they can figure out how to put on makeup and they look that good doing it, it's gotta be I like, no offense, but I was like, "It's gotta be pretty easy to learn, and can it really look that good on everybody?" Because anybody I saw it on, I felt it looked good on. And I don't have perfect skin. I have textured skin. I have melasma, rosacea, and since becoming an artist, I've even dealt with some really bad hormonal acne. But I watched all of that, and I thought, "Gosh, I mean, if they can do that." And I saw these girls that were also mamas. They even some of them had jobs outside of doing this, and they could still do it, but it was fun. And I had 2 kids, 2 and under at the time. I was fading out of that job that was like a dream job, a job I had a lot of fun with. And I was like, I kind of need something like that at this stage. And so I thought, you know what? I mean, what's to lose? Like, if I earn back, well, I thought first, if I earn back my kit money. So what I did, and I don't know if I can share this, but I did a closet purge, like a Facebook closet purge, and cleaned out my closet and my kids' closet. And I made the money to buy the kit. I'm a go big or go home. So I wanted to buy the biggest kit, but I was also not gonna just like spend that kind of money. My husband and I, like, we budget, we don't just like spend money. So to be transparent, if you get the biggest kit with our company, it's around $400. And so I had made that. I made more than that on my closet purge. And so I'm also very numbers. So like, okay, I'm gonna make that money and buy the kit, but I'm also giving myself a timeline for when I'm going to make that money within my business. And so I had also like talked with girls to see like how much would I need to sell if I joined this business in order to make that money back. So I had a game plan for that going into it.
Oh my goodness. I love hearing your story, Miranda, because, well, several things come to mind when I hear how you got started in your business. First of all, the fact that just like your Saint great grandma, which is how we kind of got connected, her favorite verse is Ecclesiastes 3, which is for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. And the fact that this business was not right for you back when it was first presented, and it took years for it to be the perfect timing. And we obviously know his timing is always better than anything we could imagine, right? But the fact that people listening, I'm sure, have thought of someone just like you that could make such an impact, not only in their own lives, but in the impact of hundreds of other people's lives as well, that might not be in the same, or that might not be in the right season right now for this business, but or back then, but maybe they are right now. So let that kind of be a lesson that people can follow up, because you just never know, and that he will work it all out as he always does in his timing. So I love that part. But also, one thing I want you to kind of break down a little bit more is your brilliant goal setting, but also kind of breaking down mindset, because I think that that's served you really well from the get go. You had that foundational element of knowing exactly what it took to start the business and then start your business with success to make back that investment. But then you, like you said, you've built it to where now you're helping other people do that. So how do you balance that focus on goal setting and setting your own personal goals, but realizing that both the fulfillment and also the financial impact comes from helping other people reach their goals?
I think that's such a huge part of this. And what I have come to realize within this company, within this career, if you'd say, is that I have always been very servant minded. Like, that is my heart. Honestly, women's ministry. And so knowing that lifting others is going to bring me more joy, and raising up leaders and pouring into others. And so if I'm so focused on my own goals, whether it's sales or team or anything like that, and it's my goals, that's nothing for others. But I think for me, just in who I am, I get more joy out of helping others and out of seeing others meet their goals. And that became very evident to me early on as I started to grow a team and started to join me in the business and seeing them, whether it was that they went live for the first time or got their first color match or, hit their first rank or another rank, just being able to shout them out and love on them and telling them like what a huge deal it is because within our company, a lot of it is like sharing a selfie or doing a before and after or something like that. That is huge for these women that have never shared a selfie before. And I will be honest, when I joined, I remember being asked for a selfie by my mentor. She wanted to introduce me to the team. I didn't have any selfies on my phone. And it wasn't that I wasn't confident in myself, but I was a mom to two littles at the time. I didn't take selfies. I didn't do that. Now, I mean, I would hate to know how many selfies there are on my phone because I show off the makeup in that way, right? But I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves of how huge a lot of these things are that we do within this business. And so for me, focusing on that, and it's very individual to my girls. So getting to know them and their heart and what they want out of this. So early on, I have that conversation with gals that join my team. Like, what does this look like for you? And what do you want out of this? Because some girls, it is, we talked about our income disclosure statement, and hey, they're always will fit. But what that looks like as far as do they want coffee money? Do they want pedicure money? Do they need diaper money? Like, what is it that's their goal? And I break it down to them and let them know, like, I know what's achievable. How are we going to get there? What do you need to do to get there? And I am a math girl. I'm a data girl. And so I number one, want to make sure they know our first goal is to make back your kid money, first and foremost, because when you make that back, then everything else is golden, right? Anything after that is just extra. And so then after that, it's okay, whatever you want to make, how much do you need to sell to make that? And let's break that down into how many call matches do you need? Because at the beginning of your business, we are not a company. I love this part of our company that does repeat orders or the auto ship. We don't have that. And I'm personally thankful because I do buy products from companies that are like that. And I don't like that part of it, to be honest, because I just don't like having to go in and change it and everything. So we don't do that. And I do enjoy that. But it's for the first part of your business, you don't always get repeat orders. So you do need to build up new customers. So I always let my girls know, if this is what you want to make, this is what you do. But first off, I make sure they also know, your back office fee, which is one thing we have is a $12 fee if you're in the US. So what do you need to sell to make sure you cover that? Right. And that's the only fee we have. And that makes sure that our shipping is taken care of, returns are taken care of, our website is up and running, all this stuff. We don't handle inventory, but that takes care of it. And so I'm very goal oriented as far as, and I'm upfront with my girls about this is what, you need to do to make sure that you bring in that income, or this is what it would look like. And I think doing it in a way of my gals, and I say my girls, my team, the women that have chosen to be a part of somewhere in my downline, they know that it's because of my heart and who I am. And it's never because of me wanting to get something out of it for myself. And they have come to know that because they know the structure, they know how things go, and they know that it's not I'm trying to get this or that out of it. I want to make sure they don't leave anything on the table, that if they need to cover X, Y, or Z, they're this close to it. There's been times that some of these girls need just a few more dollars in sales to be able to get the next commission bracket. And I love data. So that's the part that also kind of brings me joy, data or numbers. And so sometimes if I have a little bit of time, I'm looking at people's numbers and it's literally, they might need to sell 110 and they're going to make extra money. And I give them that because I also know hey girl, you wanted to make this amount this month and you're this close to it. Did you realize that? And that's not everyone's strong point, or they don't enjoy that type of stuff. That will be a chore to them. Whereas to me, I do enjoy crunching that stuff. So
Yes. No, that's so good because
okay.
I really feel first of all, you exemplify it, right? I think that's how people know that this isn't just about you. You do it for yourself. You still are. Before we even hit record on the podcast, we were talking about tech stuff, which goodness, can I just say that the enemy loves to get his hands in some tech stuff as we've experienced, but you have a goal even now when you hit some really, really things that you're very, very close to, for example, buy a new laptop computer. But it's not like you just go out and spend money, number one, that you don't have. You tie it to a goal for how you're going to use that income to invest back in your business. And so, a MacBook is going to be obviously a more expensive purchase than, like you said, our back office fee or, a ring light for someone to be able to do night content or like a party kit for doing classes like we do. But you exemplify it first. You use that gift, that God given gift of being able to simply help other people understand what it's going to take to get to their goals. But then also the connection and the relationship piece that we talked about in the beginning. If you don't have that connection and that relationship, which is really hard to do when someone has like a huge, huge following, then you're never even going to know what those things are for that person, what's important to them, or what it is that they particularly want out of this business. And it's different. Like you've told me before, you had big goals in this business from the beginning, which is not normal. Most people just want pedicure money, right? That's not you, girl. And so you had your sights set on big things. And it's really exciting to me, especially last month. I told Miranda at the end of the months because she was like this close. Like, I mean, this is this close to ranking to Artist 7. And again, we'll link to our income disclosure so you can see how awesome of a rank that is. But I think the last person that did it actually was your awesome, friggin' amazing Saint Mama Courtney. I think she might have been the last one to get to that level. And so it's about time. And you could have forced it, you could have pushed it to make it happen, but you didn't. And I remember I told you, I was like, I honestly am more proud that you didn't go do that, that you served your girls because you've had now 2 months back to back with your leaders ranking to the top 2% and 1% of the company in some of the hardest months we've had in this business, like in a minute. And so there's something like really special going on over there. And actually, I have to share a couple more stats too. So you were one of only 9 leaders on my team of like 4,400 plus last month that was paid at that artist 6 level, which is like top 1% in the company, which means like you're doing something right. Plus, your team was up when the rest of us were down, like 20 to 40% down. If you listened to my last week's podcast where I shared my renewal recap, well, your team was one of the few that was up. So it's first of all, it's really exciting to watch you well on your way to achieving those big goals I know you've had from the beginning. But also it's fascinating. One of the reasons I was dying to get you on this podcast to really share number one, your story that we've talked about, but also what do you think has been the key difference maker? I know we've touched on a few things, but like what makes your team, and I know it's not just you, it's you and the amazing leaders and even the mentors between us and all of that. But what's the difference maker for you on your team?
I think about a specific time in my life, and I'm going to share a story here. So I remember growing up, I grew up in the church. My parents were very involved. And I remember when I was probably 16 or 17, I can remember the time, the moment, sitting in the room at the church I grew up in. And we were just talking about different people's gifts and talents and how the Lord has created us and just how, we are created in his image, but we all exhibit different characteristics, right? And so that's it just makes this world a beautiful place. But our youth pastor, he knows, well, he wasn't our youth pastor, but he was like youth director. And he knew me very well. And I remember him saying, Miranda, for example, she has a genuine love for people. She is very compassionate towards others and deeply cares about them and like wants to know how they are. And at a young age, she already has that. And she does that with other people and adults. And, it's just really cool to see her. He was just, saying that to me. Then he continued on. And I distinctly still, I'm 35 years old, I think. I'm always like, I'm 30-ish. After 30, I feel like it all goes together. But I remember that was like 20 years ago. And I still remember that moment and him saying that. And it's truly gone into, and I've seen how those characteristics have attributed to the different jobs I've had and the different things I enjoy doing and how the Lord has used me to serve. And within what I do here in Seint, and I think how I've been successful is that it's those relationships. It's truly about the relationship. And we often talk about like this is a business of relationships. We have a relationship with our customers and we serve them and we truly care about like their needs and solving a problem. But then also when these girls join the artist program, they probably have some kind of problem or something is why they need this opportunity. Right. And so for me, early on, I built a relationship with my girls. And that's not just the girls that choose me as their direct mentor, but I try at some point, it's my team, as Heather mentioned, is kind of rapidly growing. And so it's not as easy as it used to be for me to make that one-on-one connection at the beginning. But at some point, like I try to do it, and it's steadily something I make a part of my kind of my DMO, my week of what I do is to build a relationship and get to know these girls. And so they know me and it's not just that I'm checking in with them to see like, where are you at the end of the month? Like, what do we need to do? It's very much, I have a relationship with them. I'm pouring into them. I'm serving them and I know kind of like what they're here, what their goals are. So all of that ties into the part of when you know these girls, and number one, you know why they're here, you can help them with that and with their goals. But also, as you know them as a person, you know kind of what this opportunity can do for them. And for everybody, it's different. But a lot of my gals, I have helped with whether it's like mindset and belief. And I had a friend, a very close friend within Seint. She's not a part of my team, doesn't connect to me at all. Totally, like, not even part of our huge team of like 20,000 artists, like, totally different. And we were chatting the other day, and she said, "You just have this," like, she was blown away, as Heather mentioned, that I had a girl hit Artist 5 one month and then Artist 6 the next month. And she's like, "What are you doing over there?" And we were just chatting, and she was like, "Marenda, you have this like innate ability to speak like belief and power over these girls. Like you believe they can do it and you help them believe they can do it." And she was like, "That's a gift." And I do, like, I truly believe, like I tell people all the time, if she can do it, so can you. Like, and I believe there's a space for everybody here. I truly believe that. It's not that everybody has to do it, but we all have our secret sauce, and you just have to like. I think it's funny because like Jackie Richards, like one of our other artists, will say, "Fly your freak flag," and I'm not. I don't really think I have like a freak flag, so I struggle with that. But I believe we all have our secret sauce. We all have something to bring to the table, and you resonate with somebody. There is somebody that is waiting for you, whatever it is, whatever company it is, whatever you need to do in life. Somebody needs to see you do it because there is another Heather that is sitting there watching, and she needs to hear your story, or she needs to know that you believe in her, because so many women or people in this world have never had somebody that believed in them, and they have never had somebody to speak the truth in them, or that they were, I mean, created in his image. And like, we are capable because of him. And like, we can do big things. And this is not me just saying this because of our company, but it's like this kind of the limit, girlfriend. Like, this is a beautiful world that we live in. And I just, I don't think like we so often put ourselves in a box. And I try to tear that box down for my girls. And I'm like, no, what do you want? It's like limitless, like dream big. Like, and that's what I did early on. Like, it talks about my goals. And I'm like, I'm not putting myself in a box. Like, if I can do whatever, this is what I want to do. And we're going to do it, you know?
Oh my gosh, yes. I know that's such a hard question. Like what's the difference? What are you doing right? How's it working over there? But yes, like what you're doing is first of all exemplifying what was modeled to you by your awesome youth pastor, because as believers and disciples of Christ, like we're called in Ephesians 4:12, it says to equip his people for works of service so that the body of Christ may be built up. And you already touched on this, that this ministry, and it's not network marketing. We're not trying to like say that this, trying to equate this to the gospel, but at the same time, this is an example of how we can be a light for Christ. And we have that opportunity every single day to equip other people on our team, whether they're believers or not, to do amazing works of service for other people. And I think that, well, I know you're getting it right on your team because, like I said, I'm seeing it and I'm seeing them grow into, and I know they would all say that they're growing into these leaders that they never even thought was possible, for themselves, but you did, you saw that. And now look where they are, which is amazing. But also, it's like, oh gosh, now I got tongue tied on this, but it's just like I'm in awe, seriously, of what's happening. But really, it is just you following in that example. It's you pouring that belief and having the abundance mindset to not just do it on your team. The fact that you're doing it to leaders that you don't get down from, that you spend in your time and energy helping and serving them, you absolutely reap what you sow. So it's no shock that you've been able to have this success with having that mindset. And I just can't wait to continue to watch you soar in this for sure. So one of the things, this is kind of funny, we're going to say this. So we've had a little bit of spiritual warfare in recording this podcast because we had this beautiful conversation the first time we had this scheduled, halfway through, or not even halfway through, I would say 20% of the way through, we had a little interruption where I pressed pause on the recording. And you guys, I don't know what happened, but the recording did not continue. And I mean, Miranda and I had some amazing conversations similar to kind of what we've been talking about here. And even though we both were like, oh my goodness, we made the time and space for this. Like, how are these words and how is this going to come back? First of all, it already has. Second of all, I think that it's just an amazing opportunity for us to show that the Lord can redeem all of these hard things that we go through, the frustrating things in our business, the times where we don't feel like we're enough or that we make mistakes or get things wrong, but he's using it and working it in his timing. And I know one of the things that we talked about that I definitely want you to bring up again the first time we recorded is I talk a lot about faith, choosing faith over fear on this podcast. But you mentioned that for you, it's not so much a fear that's holding you back. And I bet a lot of people can relate to that. But what would you say is the thing that you see hold yourself, but also, of course, others back?
I think, so I told Heather, the faith over fear, people talk about that and having faith over fear, right? And for me, it's not, I don't fear whatever because I totally have trust in the Lord. But sometimes it's that choosing faith over like the control of the situation or the trust in Him during these times. So, like, knowing that He has used this opportunity to show me that like He is in control. His plan is far better than mine. And like we want to control so much of our life. And I don't know about how many of you, but I'm in like the trenches of motherhood. And you don't have much control, but I see so much of that play into this business. And it's like when you're so close, like Heather said, to a rank or to getting this, or you're wanting a trip or something like that. There's ways that I could have taken control of situations, but I've had to fully rely that his timing, like this is, I want this opportunity and what I do within my team and what my gals see me do to know that it was through him and because of him and not something that I did. Right. And not something like, could I have made, things happen, like Heather said, or pushed things or done whatever I could have, but that's not who I am. And I want it to be, we see so often, I feel like reels or quotes that are like, yes, every good thing that you see of me is of him. But like when we talk about the opportunities to happen, it's that I do want that to be. But when people watch or people see what has happened in my life, they know that there was no way I could have done it without him. And this opportunity, I think, is that because 4 years ago, I would have told you there was no way I would have done this. Like I would not have done direct sales. And now here I am considered like top 0.2% or something of the company and fully embracing it, sharing it with everyone. Like I would shout it from the rooftops because I believe this opportunity is available to anyone, but I've also seen just the fruits of it. And I've embraced that, like, I don't have the fear. Like, I don't fear, like, when am I going to hit this rank or fear, like, where's the money going to come from? Like, I know he always provides. I know that what I'm doing, I've seen what I'm doing is working. And I've seen the transformations in the girls I work with, and I've seen what this has done for their family and their mindset. Or I've seen girls come to know Christ within my team. And that is like where the Lord just completely confirms like what I'm doing here matters. And that's more than any amount of money I could make, right? Because I can't take that with me. But if it's one soul that I have served that has come to know Christ, like that's another sister that I get to have be in heaven with and celebrate forever. So just trusting in that and trusting in his plan, his timing, his sovereignty over even these little things, right? We call it little things, but just like the simple things of, for us, I feel like people on the outside of direct sales, they don't understand rates or titles or levels or commission brackets. But for us, it's like what we know. And so just trusting him with all of that.
Yeah. I mean, that it touched me to my core because again, I have wrestled with that when we talk about fear. Yeah, it's not always fear that holds us back in this business. A lot of times it is control and our need to do that. And so the fact that you have harnessed that, because I think anytime you can just call out what the enemy is going to try to use against you and against not just you, but the Lord's greater plan for you in your life, then the more you can anticipate it, the more that you can, fight against it. And I think that I know that you've done that. And I know that you'll be able to continue to do that because you've seen how he shows up in your life despite the hard times and the hard seasons. And this podcast recording is a perfect example of it. And so I'm just so thankful for you, Miranda, for being a light. And, we're called again scripturally, to not hide our light, to let that light shine, but not for our own benefit or for our own glory, but to point back and reflect on the one who gave that to us, which is Jesus. And so thank you for being a beautiful example of that. Thank you for definitely sharing both the kind of some little tactical nuggets that people can take and apply to their business, but ultimately you and I both know that it's something much deeper than that and that it's trusting him, believing in yourself enough to pour that belief in other people and knowing that each of us has that opportunity to do it for our customers, for our team. And then when we do that, he shows up and blesses us abundantly every time. And you're just such a great, beautiful example of that. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, Miranda.
Well, thank you for having me. This is so fun. It was really good just to see. I'll probably do like I did, like Heather mentioned, after our first kind of interview. I don't even remember what all I said, but the Lord was present. He just spoke through me. And, we're surrounded by other believers. Heather just, we just talk and we sometimes don't even know what we talked about. So I can't wait to listen to this again. But it was just such a gift to be here and just allow the Lord to speak through me and share this little bit with all of you. I hope it encouraged you with wherever you're at and whatever you're maybe not trusting him with, that you lean into that and just know that he has it. He has it all planned. He has the days numbered, the hairs on your head, and the steps you're going to take. And it's going to be a beautiful ride.
Yes. Well, I'm thrilled to be along this ride with you and I can't wait to continue to watch you soar, my friend. So
Thank you.
thank you again.
Thank
Well,
you so much.
y'all have a beautiful week.